Not going to do too much talking before we get into this episode, I don't think, because with everything that happened the past few episodes, we have arguably changed the entire dynamic of the show going forward. And I, for one, am very curious to see to what extent we are actually going to be experiencing a different direction for the show, or if things are going to be going back to a bit more of how they were before the events of with the Red Dragon and everything, or yeah, just a lot of different possibilities from here is I guess what I'm trying to say, and I am just very much looking forward to see what things we play to and what things we don't. So, without any further ado, I think this is episode 14 of Dungeon Meshi. So, starting in 3, 2, 1, go. Oh, what? Oh, we're getting a new OP. Okay, that's neat. Wait, I'm pretty sure I said. I'm pretty sure because of the stuff with the lunatic magician, some of the stuff I was talking about after the after last episode in the video in the like whole long thoughts section. I'm pretty sure that I said that I wanted to pay closer attention to the OP in the next episode because I wanted to kind of look at some things visually to see if they were lining up with the kind of storytelling elements that I thought that we were being relayed. And I guess I'm gonna have to go back to a previous episode to watch that. Maybe I'll do that at the end of this video. I don't know. That's a little annoying. Oh, but we are still seeing some things. And this, I'll have to pay more attention to this OP in one of the next couple episodes because I've just kind of been letting it kind of just glide over me and haven't been paying super close attention to it. But I do feel like there are some visual things here worth paying attention to as well, most likely. Oh, speaking of last video, also, by the way, before we get fully into this episode, last video I did a thing. What? Okay, well, we definitely aren't dropping the comedy. Oh, I guess Kabru's party's getting resurrected again. Amazing. Last video, I did a whole thing at the beginning. Oh, just been in the water this whole time still? Wow. I mentioned, I did a whole thing about, liking the videos because I had several videos in a row that only got like 1 or 2 likes, and it was effective, reminding y'all to please like the videos. The last video at the time of this recording has 6 likes, so thank you. That might not seem like a lot, but when you're comparing 1 or 2 likes to 6 likes, it is actually a big difference, so thank you for that. Only charge you for the goat. Lol. Okay, so I guess Taunts isn't a total asshole. um, So yeah, thank you for hitting the thumbs up on the video. Please continue to do it. I don't like doing the whole content creator thing, like, comment, subscribe, blah blah blah. Check out Patreon, blah blah blah, all that stuff. But what was that interaction? But hey, if people need the reminder, I will oblige. I feel like every time we see this party, it is getting harder and harder to take them seriously. He's taking this well, though, I would say. Well, I might not think super highly of his party's overall competence. I do feel like Kabu seems like a good leader from what little we've seen. What is that? Is it a fishman? Why is he the only one? It's his ally, right? Yeah, they're experiencing some kind of hallucination. Yeah. Yeah, this is Oh, okay. Wow. That was wild. Um but yeah, that was I'm glad that I made that point about saying that he seemed like a good leader because then immediately following we got like the way that he evaluated the situation and like was able to oh Jesus. The way that like he was able to recognize what was going on based on the behavior of these various fishmen and how he was able to like discern okay this is this person because it's acting this way this is this it just it shows that there's like he's very familiar with his allies and that I think that's just again I just think that is a trait of a good leader is being able to be like that familiar with with their allies like he doesn't I guess it's like he doesn't just see it as like, oh, this person is a warrior, this person is a mage, this person like he doesn't just see them as like fulfilling a role on the team. He actually views them like for the people that they are, right? Oh, it is? Interesting. Um how about no? Nah, he ain't doing this. Probably gonna attack this guy when he gets close, right? I wish that was animated better. I'm I'm sorry to say it, but like I wish that was animated better. That could have been such a cool switch up. This part's animated fine, but I feel like his little like flip around with the weapon to attack initially was eh. I like this guy. Good leader, good adventurer. I feel like it's worth mentioning that as a separate component. Like the fact that he's like very clearly like well versed in combat and like just what he like. So recognizing the situation with the fishman illusion earlier, um, uh, recognizing that situation is one thing, and the way that he recognized it, but then the way that he actually handled it was a demonstration of a different skill set. And then obviously the fight just then with the assholes. So good leader, good adventurer, and strong morals. That was the third point that I wanted to make. Well, no, but the reason I laughed is because this meal, I think this meal is like, I think this is how Senshi described, like way back in I think like episode two, how he described like the average rations for adventurers and how they were kind of like inadequate in terms of maintaining proper nutrition. Oh, all right. Speaking of previous episodes, weren't those the two that got saved from the basilisk? Bro, y'all seem so incompetent. I swear. Maybe our original party is just like screams honors, dude. Oh, oh. He seems excited. He's a very observant individual. Wow. Okay, that explains that interaction from earlier that I thought was a bit odd. Or something. Very we're being shown that Cobbler is just like a very clever individual, and I really appreciate it. Sorry, what was that? Oh, oops. What? I don't like the I don't like the way that this character's painting Chilchuck. So much casual racism, even amongst friends. I do actually like that element though. Even if they're not going to necessarily like tackle any kind of larger social kind of conversations about like the way that race plays into these certain things, I feel like it does still add a layer of just like an extra layer to various conversations and dynamics and stuff. Hmm. Interesting read at the end there. It was very, very interesting to. Oh God. Oh, okay. Who are you? Oh, hello. I like these new characters so much. Oh, is that Shuro? Instant decapitation. Yeah, so Kabru is definitely far more adept at fighting humanoids than he is monsters. Like he kind of acknowledged that they were easier to fight earlier, but like but we're seeing it very that single instance of combat showed us very clearly like the extent to which he's outclassed by comparatively. He looks ragged. He looks gaunt. He looks obviously not shaven. His eyes look slightly sunken. Oh wait, that was the same character. I didn't even realize that. Wait, what? They've been lost traveling in circles for 2 days. Oh my word. And on the brink of death. My word. Okay, I'm gonna watch this outro, this new ED, before I get into talking about the episode. Okay, there were some kind of fun stills in the new ED, but nothing that I feel like I need to go super in depth talking about at the moment. So yeah. Anyway, so for things about this episode that I thought were cool, I kind of started talking about some of the things. So I really liked seeing. So first of all, we got just like a lot more information about Kabru. I think that we got to see a lot from him very directly. Like to this point, the few times that we've seen Kabru's party, I mentioned this. I think the last time that we saw Kabru's party, or maybe I talked about it after we saw Namari and Tance traveling as a new party, but it felt a little bit less like we were actually trying to learn about these different groups and more like we were just kind of using them as a vehicle for exploring different perspectives about like the way that different adventurers like view the dungeon as opposed to our main group of like Laos and Marcial and like because I think that it was fair to assume from like basically the outset of the series that characters like Laos and Senshi in particular view the dungeon and monsters in a way that is not normal, that is not typical of other adventurers. And so I feel like initially we were kind of just seeing these other adventurers and these other adventuring parties as sort of a way to kind of contrast with our main group. But now we're getting deeper into this show and we're getting more in depth with not just our main characters, but also these side characters. And some of these side characters are, in particular, in this case, with this episode, Kabru, are starting to be very fleshed out. Like, we got some like very base stuff with him before, and then this episode, I just feel like, I feel like we took the kind of bare bones skeleton of a character for Kabru from the previous interactions we'd had with him. And then in this episode, we fully fleshed out that character. Like, again, we see him being a strong leader, we see him being a strong combatant, we see his strengths and weaknesses as a combatant versus, of like, you know, against humanoids versus monsters. And we see his like strong morals on display. We see his cunning. We see the way that he like we see the way that he like used information that he'd observed in the past to come to conclude to draw conclusions that like the rest of his party like even following his train of thought they were kind of like on the fence about. And arguably towards the end there when he then interacted with this now another new party in Shuro and his group, We see the way that he is arguably to call him a politician right here, right now seems a little extreme, but he definitely the vibe that I got in when he approached Shuro and some of his previous ways of speaking, he very much is trying to how do I say this? He very much cares about his image, I think, and that goes back to the first interaction we saw with him in the first episode that we were introduced to him in his party. And I think that he also very much cares about the way that he speaks to people insofar as being able to view almost every conversation as a negotiation. Does that make sense? And so yeah, it's just I was kind of whatever, I think, on his character before, but this single episode got me super invested, super interested in his character, super hyped to see more of him. I mentioned, a handful of times in previous episodes that because of his presence and placement in the OP, that I thought we were probably going to be seeing more of him in the future. And now it is less of a, I think we're going to see more of him, which I still do, but it's a little bit less of that and more of like I hope we are going to see more of him because I actually do really want to see more of this character and yeah, just more of this character, more of how he's going to interact with presumably eventually Laos's party because it seems like even though in this episode we kind of introduced more plot points in a sense with or more character stories in a sense because now we've also got again Shiro's party, the new adventuring party that he's put together, and things are and seeing all these different threads coming together at some point is going to, I expect, probably be extremely satisfying once it finally happens. And not only was it really cool to see Kabru's character for the sake of seeing more of Kabru's character, but specifically talking about how he is clever and how he is observant and the way that he is able to kind of break down people and make certain assessments and draw conclusions and such. It was very interesting to see an outside perspective on some of the different characters in our main party. Kabru had opinions on the Toden. I'm not sure how to pronounce Laos and Falin's last name. Although to that end, I'm not sure if I'm honestly pronouncing Laos's name right. I'm pretty sure that they pronounce it Laos or something along those lines when I hear them say it in the show. But I've just been saying Laos, so pronunciation is always kind of a whatever thing with anime. But the way that he kind of gave his opinion on the Toden siblings, the way that I'm probably not going to learn any of his party's name, any of Kabru's party's name other than his name, but the way that the little one was talking about Chilchuk and the way that he is extremely greedy and thinks that he speaks for all of they don't call them halflings. I think half foot in the show, not human, tall man, not halfling, half foot. Yeah, that's another thing about this show. They have some slightly different names, and they also have a variety of different names for different races. So, anyways, getting off track. And so yeah, that was just seeing the different kind of perspectives was another cool thing. And then speaking of these different characters, something that it wasn't like super on display, but something that I did notice and think was very, very nice attention to detail, which I've like started to come to expect from this show, but I think it's still very much worth pointing out, highlighting, and noting because it's something that I don't think you can reasonably expect from a lot of other shows. Is that when Kabru's party was having their conversation, specifically like while they were having their conversation around while they were eating, there was a lot of character expressiveness in the way that certain characters were like moving and being animated and having just like their own like they were just having their own mannerisms and their own expressions and their own like their own little facets of again just character expression that makes them feel more unique, that makes them feel more real as characters. Like the mage girl was like twirling her hair a decent amount. She was shown doing that a few times. The 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 halfling girl, half foot girl, as she was talking, there were times where she was like leaning back and she had like her arms behind her back in a way that the other characters just weren't doing because they were sitting like normally. And then she was like playing with the way that she was like leaning into the kobold a few times, and yeah, it's just it's again like little stuff like that. I think by this point in the show, it's easy to come to expect that kind of extra detail, and again, just kind of differentiating uh, fa- um, differentiating things between different characters. But it's not something that I think a lot of shows would. You can just assume that they would do. There are plenty of shows where like if you have a scene with multiple characters like sitting in a group talking, then they're just going to be sitting in a group like all sitting in pretty much the same manner and like not really moving, not really emoting or expressing themselves, and they're just going to be like sitting in a circle talking, and the camera's going to like move from one character to another, focusing on like maybe focusing different on like different zoom ins and on their faces, and that's going to be like the action or the movement of the scene. It's not going to be focusing on like again these actual character movements and these character actions that are just like again just make the characters feel more real. But okay, repeating myself too much on that point. Let's move on. Although this next thing that we're moving on to doesn't necessarily have a lot to be talked about at this point in time, which is just that again, the initial impression that I get from these new characters in Shuro's adventuring party is just that they seem freaking cool. And I don't really have much more to say about it other than like I hope we get to learn more about these characters too. Given that I have yet to be bothered to learn the names of the characters in Kabru's party, I'm probably not going to learn the names of all these other characters that we're just now being introduced to in Schur's party, unless they do something to really make themselves stand out. And I don't necessarily know, how much screen time any or all of them are going to get, but regardless, they seem cool. So I hope we get a little bit more of them, with them, et cetera, et cetera. And and again, just the fact that we are getting all these different adventuring groups. First we got Kaburu's party, then we got Namari and Tansa's party, and now we're getting this new party of Shuros. It's just it's really building out the cast as well as just like the complexity of competing factions and groups and like the kind of what happens when you have like a bunch of different people who have differing goals and priorities, right? Like we've seen that some people only care about gold, right? They're only caring about money. Like that the I don't remember what they were called, but like the robbers or whatever they were supposed to be, the people who resurrected Kabru's party only to then stalk them to try to, find a way to extort them for greater gain later, who then got killed themselves. So we have people like that who only care about money. You have people like Laos, who he's trying to save his sister, and beyond that, seemingly they were just trying to like make ends meet. They weren't necessarily they weren't scoundrels, but they were just trying to like make some money and live their lives. And then you've got Kabru's party, who Kabru seemingly has some sort of like lofty ambitions and like very ideological goals as opposed to just like looking at practically like what's in front of him. And then speaking of looking at practically what's in front of him, we now have Shuro, who similar to Laos, but I feel like also not exactly the same, seems to have a sort of single-minded goal of chasing after rescue the idea of rescuing fallen. So yeah, just seeing these different things is again, it on the one hand, it might seem very simplistic because I think that you could argue like this is how life works, right? you have different people who have different goals, who come together for different reasons and then clash against others for different reasons, and like it results in different things depending on how different like people choose to handle it. And like it seems simple, but when you're trying to like actually execute on it in a narrative manner, it involves a lot of complexity, right? It involves a lot of complexity, and it's the kind of thing where I just feel like, again, thus far, this show has handled that kind of thing really well, and I look forward to seeing how it continues to grow. And like I want to kind of, I don't think I necessarily want to continue to delve deeper into any of these particular things, but I do want to just kind of, you know, we've got this sort of thing happening with different factions, different groups, different adventuring parties. We've got the fact that numerous times to this point, we've had very direct kind of comments on, and slightly, and in some instances, conflict over like racial tensions between, elves and orcs, between, just these very, and the way that, humans and other people see dwarves, and the way that, yeah, so just these kinds of things as well. And then also just this ever ballooning cast of characters. I think that I don't remember which video it was, but I believe that at one point in time, I talked about how it felt like the series was trying to, it felt like the series was potentially trying to grow from starting with a small cast of characters into eventually having, and eventually being an ensemble cast type show. And I believe at that time, I mentioned how like, it was the way that it seemed like they were trying to go about like executing on that and maneuvering from, being one kind of show to another. I was a little hesitant on how that was going to go. But again, just from what I've seen of the show so far, it just continues to do really well in a lot of different ways, and it continues to impress me in a lot of different ways. And especially with how bought in this single episode made me on Kabru's character specifically, I feel like I am incredibly confident at this point in time that however much they choose to grow their cast to be this eventual, again, I think that we're heading in the direction of an ensemble cast where we are going to have like, a dozen characters or so splitting time. I think that they're going to manage it well. I think they're probably going to manage it well, and I look forward to seeing just how well they do manage it. I think that is about it. I don't know. I feel like I arguably did a lot of rehashing, a lot of repeating myself, and yeah, I don't know. Hopefully, I made some good points, regardless, despite all that. And yeah, I'm still trying to get back into things. I had to take a little bit of time off because I was having some issues, but hopefully, we're back to getting a bit more recording done and videos uploaded and whatnot. So, anyways, remember to like the video. Remember to comment on the video. Remember to check out other stuff on the channel if that is something you're interested in doing. Remember to check out the main channel if you're interested in doing that as well. I'm getting to, I think I should be able to wrap up the One Piece live action adaptation reactions in like the next month or so, hopefully. And then I may move on to something immediately after that, or I may just leave that channel sitting for another month or two until Arcane Season 2 comes out. But I am kind of trying to slowly bring that channel back into having videos and existing and having and being an actual YouTube channel again. And yeah, so thanks for watching, and until I see you in the next one, take care. Bye bye.